Now, our next presenter is Fahmidul Haq. He's a visiting professor of experimental humanities, Bard College, from New York. And his paper is Late Intervention, the Role of Foreign Press in Hasina Regime, 2019 to 2023.
Thanks, dear session chair and listeners. Good morning. You can see the title of my paper. Basically, I am trying to understand the role of the foreign press on the political issues of Bangladesh, and I describe it as late intervention, especially if I see they are more interested about Bangladesh political affairs. In the last few years, I have been counting from 2019 to 2023, and before that, it was like almost silence about Bangladesh. So this slide I want to skip because you know the political situation in Bangladesh, especially if we're sitting here in this room. But in short, I want to just read out the last paragraph. According to Freedom House Democracy Index 2024, the country is rated partly free. The report, the ruling Awami League has consolidated power through sustained harassment of the opposition and those perceived to be allied with it, as well as of critical media and voices in civil society. So it describes briefly the political situation back in Bangladesh. Okay? And now I'm coming to the point, the silence period and kind of intervention period. Except in the last 2-3 years, the regime received largely positive impression from the international community. The reasons may be the country's positive economic indicators and its humanitarian efforts in providing shelter to more than 1 million Rohingya refugees. There might be other reasons, I have just highlighted these two. You can contribute here in this aspect. The first response came from international human rights organizations, that is criticizing the human rights abuse back in Bangladesh, then from the foreign press. So the human rights organizations, they have been monitoring the situation over there, but the interest from the foreign press, it came later. And US imposed sanctions on RAB in 2021 was the first blow that confirmed the regime has lost its credibility internationally. And the new visa policy implemented by the US government for Bangladeshi citizens in 2023 increased that credibility or legitimacy crisis for the government. These were seen only after foreign press started covering Bangladesh's political issues in depth. I'm trying to say the reports from the human rights organizations, those were there, but it is only after the interest of the foreign press who started covering in depth Bangladeshi political affairs. Only then these two big incidents we have been experiencing especially from the US government. The first significant media criticism came from Al Jazeera's show titled Head to Head. It was aired in 2019 that raised the question, is Bangladesh a one-party state? And subsequently some other international prominent media, BBC, New York Times, DW, CNN, AFP, The Economist, and Sweden-based news portal Metro News broadcasted and published reports criticizing the Hasina government. And the method for this paper primarily chronicles the late interventions of the foreign press in Bangladesh affairs and analyzes what they covered. And the selected reports will be analyzed by discourse analysis method by Van Dyke, and the impacts will be explored by observing the chain of events. And as you know, Van Dyke says, what is discourse analysis? A relationship between language and the construction of news narratives. So in this paper, I will actually go through some selected news reports, and I'll try to unearth some discourses over there from there, and I'll try to analyze those discourses. And I'll connect those discourses with the broader socio-political reality in Bangladesh. And I conducted one in-depth interview with the chief editor of Netro News. I have selected, in the selected report list, there is a production from Netro News. And here is the list. I have selected four news reports, or documentaries, or video reports. Overall, it could be described as investigative reports, 3 videos, 1 text. And I have selected these 4 contents on the basis of 3 C's. One is corruption, other is coercion, and the third one is communication. So for corruption, I have selected All the Prime Minister's Men by Al Jazeera. For coercion, I have selected Aina Ghorer Bondi by Netro News, that is focusing on the torture cell of DZFI. And Inside the Death Squad is about RAB that was broadcasted by DW, also supported or collaborated with Netro News. And the last one, it is about communication, how the government is trying to controlling the communication channels. And you can see the title is Self-Explanatory, Fake Experts Drive Disinformation Before Bangladesh Polls. It was reported by AFP Bangladesh. So maybe most of you have watched this documentary, All the Prime Minister's Men. This hour-long feature documentary is the most debated content produced by any foreign press on Hasina regime. This report was criticized by the loyal domestic media and civil society and highly appreciated by others. It depicted the corruption of Ahmed clan, a close clique to PM Hasina, revealing Army Chief General Aziz Ahmed as the key member of the clan's corruption. And I have selected 3 discourses from there: corruption, clientele, power structure, whistleblower. So I will discuss these discourses later, and you will see there is a repeat of some discourses. Aina Ghorer Bondi. The investigative report explores and identifies a torture cell named as Aina Ghor, run by DZFI, the top military intelligence. Upon the data of 2 whistleblowers or victims, the report convincingly portrayed how a military agency has been used by the government to create fear among the citizens. And the discourses I have selected here, ruling by creating fear, whistleblowers. Next one is Inside the Death Squad by DW. RAB was already identified as a killing machine by international human rights organizations. USA provided technical support in the formative stage of RAB. However, they imposed a sanction on RAB in 2021. DW clearly delineates the method of killing by the death squad. And the discourses are ruling by creating fear and whistleblowers. So the discourses started repeating here. The 4th one, fake experts drive disinformation before Bangladesh polls. In this investigative report, AIBS analyzed more than 700 articles published in at least 60 domestic and international news sites with the byline attributed to 35 fake names and identities with the target to bring benefit to Hasina regime just before the election 2024. And the discourses are propaganda and disinformation and geopolitics. So these are some selected reports, and I have already pinpointed some discourses. Now I'll analyze the discourses in brief. Corruption, the first discourse. All the Prime Minister's men primarily reported the corruption of the men close to PM Hasina. Army Chief General Aziz's 3 brothers were convicted in 2004 for a murder. The chief abuses his power to issue a fake passport with a fake name for his brother Anis Ahmed. And fugitive brother Anis works internationally as a broker to settle the deal of military purchases that includes spyware made by Israel. The recent reports on former police chief Benazir's corruption highlighted the extent to which the Hasina regime permits key administrative figures to engage in rampant corruption. So that I just connected the Aziz's case with Benazir's case, and it is just a these are two examples, but there are a lot of examples we can provide, and you everyone here may be aware of that. The next discourse, clientele power structure. Again, going back to Aziz's case, three brothers of Ahmed clan once served as personal security of Hasina. So you can see who is client and who is the master. General Aziz was appointed the chief of BGB before 2014 election and army chief before 2018 election. Okay, thank you. In exchange, they were benefited during Hasina regime. The story of former police chief Benazir can be remembered here, who actually was very brutal in using DSA upon Bangladeshi citizens, even in the time of pandemic. And many of Hasina's ministers, MPs, secretaries, and political activists were reported for money laundering and smuggling millions of dollars overseas. Hasina consolidated power, and the people helped her in doing that, got benefited. The next discourse, whistleblowers. A culture of fear has been established through DSA arrests, enforced disappearances, and encounters. Those who are persecuted, most of them don't speak up. A few whistleblowers came forward that made possible of some reports we have been selecting here that exposed government's brutal control methods. Sami in All the Prime Minister's Men, Sheikh M. Salim, and Colonel Hasanur in Ainaghar Bondi, and two RAB members in Inside Death Squad were the whistleblowers in the selected reports. If freedom of expression was not limited, these whistleblowers could be identified as just respondents. If people could, journalists could write or report what is going on around, then we have been identifying them as whistleblowers, but they could be mere respondents in a peaceful, normal, democratic environment. Ruling by creating fear. Ainaghar Bondi starts with the following statistics. During 2009 to 19, 605 people were disappeared forcefully, 81 were killed during their disappearance, and 151 are still missing. And not to mention DSA, spywares are bought to surveil citizens, troll army are deployed in social media who will be working for the government to create huge propaganda material and also ridiculing the critic to the government. Okay. Propaganda and disinformation. Going back to that report, AP report, Hasina regime proved that they were efficient in controlling communication channels. Mainstream media is largely loyal to the government. The larger body of intellectual journalists, civil society members, as well as online activists are loyal to the government. They have been relentlessly highlighting the development discourse and attacking opponents. They are also enthusiastic in designing propaganda and disinformation that have been evident in the AIBS fake experts report. The report says hundreds of articles praising Bangladeshi government policies apparently by independent experts have appeared in national and international media, but the authors have questionable credentials, fake photos, and may not even exist, an AP investigation has found. The next one is geopolitics. The new US visa policy 2023 was supported by the Western allies and of the USA and contested by China, Russia, and Iran. In the fake experts article, the fake expert Doreen Chaudhary, who became viral, produced an article supporting growing ties with China and warning that gun violence in the United States is a threat to human rights. So you see, the fake experts is like supporting Bangladeshi government, but at the same time trying to say something about the geopolitics happening around. So I can see the chain of events. I could go in depth for this chain of events, but I've been just mentioning a few. Responses to All the Prime Minister's Men, outright denial of the allegations by the loyal civil society and the government officials. They denied outright the allegations came from that report, trivializing actually we have worked another research paper about the responses from the governments and government agencies or officials and the civil society, and we have been summarizing this. Trivialization of the report, creating doubts about the motivation of the report, downplaying the importance of the issue covered in the report, and attacking Al Jazeera's credibility. Some published reports invited others to report more, and at the end we see what it is. The Economist, the title of the Economist report just before the election was Sheikh Hasina is Asia's Iron Lady. The sanction on RAB reduced the extrajudicial killing, that was also an impact, and it is not isolated from the reporting. I'm trying to establish that from the contribution of the human rights organizations, from the contributions of late intervention of the foreign press, these were coming one after another. While a few Congress members wrote to Biden to take some actions against the Bangladeshi regime, they cited DW's death squad report. So you can see that's one evidence about late yet effective intervention. The regular reports by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, RSF, Reporters Without Border were effective to create the picture what is going over there in Bangladesh. Tasnim Khalil, I interviewed him, he said, in absence of independent media, foreign-based entities become much powerful. He mentioned about human rights organizations and the foreign press. Al Jazeera had consistent interest on Bangladesh affairs and contributed to creating a real impact. Indian mainstream media always reported with a slant of saving Hasina regime. The Western or global media showed interest only 1-2 years ahead of the 2024 election. They did not show interest in this extent during 2014 or 2018 elections. This interest was either fostered by the growing interest of the US government or vice versa. Dhaka bureaus of global press would publish some reports critical to the government, though we have seen another report where published in Netro News, where it was trying to say that AFP bureau chief back in Dhaka, he is personally inclined to or involved with Awami League politics, and could show how AP is trying to save the regime's face by not reporting many big issues. So that's all from my side. Thank you all.
Thank you.
For listening to me, and I'll be there to answer your questions. Thank you.